Welcome back to Errors in the System. If you've been following the journey so far, you know the stakes have never been higher for Sam, Sim, and the crew of the Fahrenheit 451. In today's chapter of the Tossing Fate saga, we finally leave the open water behind and step directly into the belly of the beast, the flooded, decaying ribs of a dead giant. The RI mind is awake, it is watching, and a frontal assault is suicide. As Sam and Sim gear up for what looks like a hopeless mission, two ants preparing to fight a lion in a Roman Colosseum, they aren't the only ones making moves in the dark. Cynthia knows how cities rot, and she knows the boys will need a shadow to watch the blind spots they're too noble to check. With hidden weapons, a 24-hour ticking clock, and the only way off this rock hanging by a thread, the ultimate battle is about to begin. Grab your gear, settle in, and let's dive right into Episode 7.
Episode 7, The City of Silence. They rounded the bend into the upper bay, and the corpse of New York City revealed itself. Manhattan was a Venice of glass and steel. The streets were canals of black water. It's quiet, Sim noted. Too quiet. Scan for energy, Sam commanded. Sim checked the Geiger counter. Low levels, background radiation mostly, but wait. Sim pointed toward the center of the island, where the skyline was densest. I'm picking up a spike, not radiation data, a massive amount of encrypted traffic. Sam looked through the binoculars. Looming over the broken skyscrapers of Midtown was a second structure, a sleek black monolith with hundreds of door-like openings rising into the sky. The RI deployment tower. That's where the spheres came from, Sam realized. We need to put her in, Sam said. Pier 88, the old passenger terminal. It was a delicate operation. The Fahrenheit 451 was nearly 1,000 feet long. In the old world, tugboats would have guided her in. Now Sam had to do it with raw instinct and a prayer. Thrusters are offline, Sim reminded him. We have to drift her in. Drop the speed to 2 knots, Sam ordered. Get ready on the bow lines. We got one chance to make the throw. The ship glided toward the rusted remains of the pier. The concrete was cracked, and half the terminal building had collapsed into the Hudson River, but the pilings looked solid. The gap narrowed. 50 feet. 20 feet. Now, Sim! Sim sprinted to the starboard railing. He threw a heavy coil of rope with a weighted monkey fist knot at the end. It soared across the gap and tangled around a rusted bollard on the pier. Sim engaged the winch. The line went taut, singing with tension. The massive ship groaned, its momentum fighting the rope. Creak! Creak! The ship slowed, drifting sideways until the hull kissed the rubber bumpers of the pier with a gentle thud. Secure the aft lines, Sam shouted from the bridge wing. Sim scrambled back and forth, sweating in the cold air, until the Fahrenheit 451 was lashed tight to the rotting city. Sam killed the engines. The silence rushed back in, heavy and oppressive. The only sound was the lapping of the black water against the hull. Sam backed out onto the deck, joining his son. They looked out at the canyon of dead buildings. We're here, Sam said, patting the flare gun at his hip. Welcome to New York, kid. It's a graveyard, Sim whispered, looking at the dark windows of 1,000 empty apartments. No, Sam corrected, watching a blue flash illuminate the clouds above the RI tower. It's a battlefield. The silence of the city didn't last long. Minutes after the lines were secured, the heavy steel doors of the ship's superstructure groaned open. Figures emerged from the shadows of the bridge, stepping onto the biting wind. It was the Council of Tides. They didn't look like a governing body anymore. Their clothes were stained with salt and grease. Elder Keel led them, his face gaunt, but his eyes hard as flint. We are secure? Keel asked, his voice rasping against the wind. For now, Sam replied, leaning against the railing. He gestured to the sprawling, flooded ruins of Manhattan. But this isn't a parking spot, it's a staging ground. The tower, a council member whispered, looking at the black monolith piercing the clouds in Midtown. The sheer scale of the RI deployment tower, the seat of the great RI mind, seemed to suck the life out of the city. We have to move fast, Sim said, stepping up beside his father. He adjusted the straps of his pack. Every minute we sit here, that thing is processing data. It knows we're here, or it will soon. The journey is a suicide, another council member argued, clutching her shawl. The streets are waterways, the buildings are unstable, and we do not know what defenses the RI mind has deployed. We know enough, Sam said. We know it's the source. We need fresh data packets to somehow find a way to get into the head of the great RI mind, or we spend the rest of our lives hiding in the ocean. From the shadows near the bulkhead, Cynthia watched. She leaned against a rusted vent, arms crossed, her silhouette nearly blending with the dark metal of the ship. She had been quiet for days, observing, calculating. He's right about the water, Cynthia said. Her voice was calm, cutting through the murmurs of the council. Heads turned. Sam looked at her, his expression unreadable. The streets aren't just flooded, she continued, pushing off the wall and walking into the circle. They're distinct channels. The currents between the buildings will be treacherous. If you take a boat, you're a sitting duck with anything scanning from above. You need to traverse the buildings and find high ground where there should be avenues that are not flooded. She looked up at the skeletal skyscrapers. You will be climbing through the ribs of a dead giant. What is your point, Cynthia? Cale asked impatiently. My point is that a frontal assault with a large group is foolish, she said, her eyes locking onto Sam's. Small team, high mobility. You go in loud, you die. You go in quiet, maybe you get close enough to plant a virus or an analog data bomb before the RI mind knows you are there. Sam nodded slowly. That's the plan, just me and the kid. And us? You hold the ship, Sam said. If we aren't back in 24 hours, you cut the lines and you run. Don't look back. A heavy silence fell over the group. Sim looked at his father, realizing the finality of the order, but he didn't argue. He thought to himself, it's him and his dad against all odds, but they were in the game. We leave in 10, Sam announced, pushing off the railing. As the council dispersed to relay orders, Sam and Sim checked their weapons, Cynthia, a flare gun, a pry bar, a few scavenged EMP grenades. They looked like ants preparing to fight a lion in a Roman Colosseum. They're going to get themselves killed, she thought, and if they die, the only way off this rock dies with them. She waited until they turned their backs to hoist their gear. Quietly, she slipped away, moving not toward the bridge, but toward the aft cargo hold where the smaller skiffs were stored. She wouldn't go with them, not openly. Sam would never allow it. He's too protective, too focused on the boy. But she knew the city, or at least she knew how cities rot. They would need a shadow, someone to watch the blind spots they were too noble to check. Cynthia checked the knife in her boot and the compact pistol she had hidden from the council's inventory checks. 24 hours, she whispered to the cold wind. Let's see if we can make it in 12.
Episode 8. Soon to released. A walk-on part in a war. The city doesn't hum anymore. It only groans, buckling under the weight of the bitter wind pushing through the steel canyons. We find Sam crossing the threshold into the dead heart of Midtown. The streets here are a graveyard of yellow cabs and debris. Above him, a rusted theater marquee juts out like a broken jaw, its neon tubing shattered, clinging to nonsense letters left behind by time and decay. The silence of this fallen world is heavy. It presses against his eardrums. It threatens to crush him until it suddenly shatters. It starts as a vibration at the base of his skull, a phantom frequency ghosting across his neural pathways. And then, the acoustic guitar riff kicks in. It is clear. It is crisp. It is heartbreakingly familiar. It isn't playing in the ruined streets. It's playing directly in his mind, carrying then the ghost of a question from a world long gone. So you think you can tell? Heaven from hell? Don't miss episode 8. The attempt begins to reach the great tower of the mind. Hold on.